20% off-the-job training. Employer commitment for apprenticeship programs. A general guide for employers. What is the 20% off-the-job requirement? Off-the-job training is defined as learning which takes place outside of the normal day-to-day working environment and leads towards the achievement of the apprenticeship. It does not include training which takes place outside the learner's paid working hours. The minimum duration of each apprenticeship qualification is based on the learner working 30 hours per week or more, including any off-the-job training. If the learner works less than 30 hours, you must extend the minimum duration pro rata to take this into account. Anything not written into the standard as mandatory must be paid for by the employer and cannot be part of off-the-job training. The employer and the training provider referenced in the commitment statement should agree upon how the 20% is met. How can the 20% be met? 20% off-the-job training requirement can be met by theoretical teaching, study week or workshops, simulated exercise, practical engagement, role-playing, some online learning, webinars or blended learning, manufacturer training, new equipment or technologies, practical training, shadowing, receiving mentoring, industry visits, visiting other companies or suppliers, attendance at competitions, visiting other employer departments, learning support provided by the provider or the employer, identifying a skills gap as part of a workplace observation, and then working with the employer to educate and address the aforementioned deficit. Time spent by the learner writing assessments or assignments. What we cannot use to evidence the 20% requirement. Enrollment, induction, diagnostic assessment or prior assessment, English and Maths up to level 2, progress reviews or on-program assessment needed for an apprenticeship standard, off-the-job training only delivered by distance learning, although including online and other blended learning activity as part of an apprenticeship is permissible. Training that takes place outside the learner's paid working hours. For funding and audit purposes, all training providers will need to have evidence that the learner spends at least 20% of their time on off-the-job training, recognizing that learners may need more than 20% off-the-job training, for example, whether they need to develop their English and Maths skills. It is up to the employer training provider how the off-the-job training is delivered. Evidence that the training provider needs to demonstrate. A collection of documents and information brought together to form a single point of reference relating to the learning that is taking place. This provides the evidence to prove that the learner exists and is eligible for funding. The documents must be accessible for the SFA if required. The pack must also include details of the negotiated cost agreed between the employer and the provider, details of how the 20% off-the-job training, excluding English and Maths, will be quantified and delivered, details of how English and Maths will be delivered, details of employment, including the name of the employer and the agreed contracted hours of employment, including paid training and 20% off-the-job time, and the total planned length of the apprenticeship. The commitment statement signed and dated by the learner, employer, and main training provider. For more information on how we can support you, please contact our team on 0800 955 0870 or 0121 707 0550. Pathway Group, a workforce development solutions provider. Think apprenticeship, think pathway.